We're here at the Felida stand where I'm joined by Stuart, and I'm basically, I think, going to get a filtration one-on-one because you guys do filtration. Now, the extent of my knowledge of this is the little water jug that's in my fridge. You're going to tell me it gets a lot more complicated than that, aren't you?
Very much more, yes. I think your water jug in your office uses principles that are used widely across industry, but I think there's a lot more science that goes into it than that.
But it all starts off with something that looks pretty basic, which is this, which might be at home on a knitting machine.
It looks very similar, yeah. It's kind of like a spool that you would put on a loom or something like that, but really and truly it is just a ball of string. But in terms of how it filters, you have this pattern on the filter, and the pattern denotes what micron size it is. This generally is kind of what we call the basic filtration, the kind of first level of filtration, the rock stopper, for want of a better word. And then you would kind of move on to finer filtration before you get to a final level at the end. So this is kind of where we start.
And then I guess the next progression is something like this, which is much finer thread material.
So this here is using the same basis as this, wound slightly finer, so a smaller micron size, but this uses a different fibre. So this has the ability to go to a lot hotter temperatures, to be able to deal with different chemicals, and gives us a more broader spectrum of applications we can use it for.
Yeah. Speaking of which, and let's have a wander over to your bags over there, which I know are the next step. But what sort of applications, what sort of clients need to use filtration technologies like the ones that Felida provides?
Well, I always, when I speak to people about Felida as a company, we don't really have a specialist industry as such, because the filters we use can be used in pretty much any industry that wants to refine or purify or change the physical matter of a liquid. So certainly with a bag, for instance, you might want to put water where you've drilled a borehole in some land and you're pulling up dirt and you want to use that first process. Or it could be where you've got a company that's manufactured a glue or something like that they want to take out small pieces of particulate so their final product is nice and clean. But generally speaking, these type of things, again, the same as the first one, they're rock stoppers. They're the kind of filters that take away what we call the visible particulate. Anything above 50 micron or more is the stuff you can see with your naked eye, and that's generally what we use these for.
Let's go down to below sub 50 micron. Yep. Where should we go next?
Yeah, we can go back to here. Okay. So we're back with the type of cartridges that generally people would associate with looking like some sort of paint roller or something like that. Oh, yeah. So when you were in your B&Q and it looks like this thing that you would run up and down a wall. But there is a science involved to this. This is made of very fine fibers. So it's polypropylene, so it's virgin polypropylene. So it's an inert substance. So it allows us to use it with many different chemicals. Yeah. And this particular technology kind of replaced this because you're using a much finer thread. And this will go down to very low micron sizes. And we can also do things like go to what we call an absolute rated spun. So what this does is it allows us to remove much higher efficiencies of particulate, almost down to sort of 99.5%. Okay. So it's very high kind of efficiency levels on this.
Sure.
Okay.
When we get down here, this looks more like a kind of filter that I might fit in my car. Okay, maybe that's a little bit large, but
air filter or something.
An air filter. This is more recognisable to me.
Yeah. Now this type of filter, again, what we've been talking about thus far is what we call depth filtration. So it uses a depth of media to filter, whereas this is what we call surface filtration. So it uses one sheet of filtration. You have a more exacting level of micron, and you can pass quite high flow rates through this. Whereas
So there's a large surface area there.
Absolutely, yeah. So something like this, for instance, looks very similar to this, but the surface area is exponentially larger.
Sure. Okay. And then things get a whole lot more serious when we start looking at reverse osmosis. Now, biology at school was an awfully long time ago for me. But you do it every day. Is there a quick way of describing what it is, how it works, and who it's for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're at school and you learn about osmosis in general, I think the easiest way to explain it is if you had two tanks with salty liquid one side and pure liquid the other side and a membrane in the middle, water would generally try to establish its own equilibrium. Yeah. So the water would generally flow either way and it would return to salt water both sides. What we try and do with reverse osmosis is we apply a pressure to a membrane and we force the salt to the other side of the membrane. So essentially, what it says on the tin is reverse osmosis. So what this machine here does is the water will come in one side, it will pass through one of these, which is called a membrane.
Now that is a serious canister there, isn't it?
Yes. So this particular membrane here is used in a more industrial application. So you may see this, people like Severn Trent Water and people like that, the real big boys that are looking to process large volumes of water. People like Coca-Cola, people like that will all use this type of technology. And what people like these guys will use is they will run their water through this. The pure water will come out one side, the wastewater will go another way, and there you have your reverse osmosis.
And you were saying, just while we're chatting before the cameras rolled, is that, for example, a Coca-Cola or a drinks manufacturer would use something like this so that their drinks tasted the same wherever in the world that they were made, because the water coming out is just as pure.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, where if you were to drink Coca-Cola in Mumbai or you were to drink Coca-Cola in London, one of Coca-Cola's claims is that their Coca-Cola always tastes the same. And that's simply because what we call the base water, that the starting ingredient has to remain the same. And the only way they can do that is to reverse osmosis that, because that removes, it strips any impurities out, any salts, any heavy metals. So then they get stuck with basically H2O. And then they add their ingredients, they add whatever they need to do to turn it into Coca-Cola, so you get that great taste at the end of it.
I'm used to talking about electronics and digital stuff. I guess my question is there a measurement of resistance, if you like? Because obviously when you're pushing stuff through a set of membranes or something, that there is going to be a resistance to that flow of liquid, whatever it is. How do you manage that? Is there a particular meters cubed or that comes out of one of these?
Well, it really depends on the size of the membrane, but we measure our flow in, it could be litres per minute, it could be meters cubed per hour, and we generally size our systems based on litres per minute. Sure. This sort of system, in terms of pressure, we're generally measuring in bar, and bar represents 13.5 psi.
Yep. Okay, and then finally, just so we've rounded off the story, I guess, an entirely different way of filtration with ultraviolet. Again, this is something that some people domestically might see in their homes as well, maybe a smaller version than this.
Yeah, I think the UV is used, I suppose it would lead us quite nicely onto one of our largest industries, which is hospitals. Looking at all the different filters that we've used now, they would be used, we see a hospital as almost like a mini town, a mini city, because you're bringing in, for want of a better word, town's water, and this has to be purified to be used in so many different applications. It could be used for renal patients, where we're used to try and purify their blood. Yeah. It could be used in an endoscopy unit where they're trying to wash toxins off of equipment before they put them into people's bodies. Or it could be just safeguarding patients that are in critical care, that have respiratory problems, and that would be using something like the shower and tap filters that we have here.
So this is a filter that you've got built into either to the shower head or the tap head there?
Yeah, absolutely. So this particular filter here, what this does, this safeguards any patients from what is notoriously a killer of people with respiratory problems, which is Legionnaire's disease. So inside this filter, there is a microfiber of hollow fiber strands, which are rated at 0.2 micron, and bacteria is generally rated at 0.22 micron and higher. Okay. So what this does is the water goes in through a load of microfiber, and it comes out the bottom at the point of exit. And this generally is used for hospitals where there is an outbreak, or you have at-risk patients or burns units and things like that, because Legionnaire's is generally a disease which is breathed in. Yeah. So anything that's coming off the tap or from a shower that could be breathed in is generally safe from water by using these filters.
Thank you very much. Speaking of deep breaths, we've got one more thing to do here. Now, here at the Felida booth, there is a competition. And I'm going to put you on the spot now, Stuart, because as we walk by, Stuart was able to ring the bell with one of the hammers here. Now, if you look, this is a Beat the Bacteria competition. The harder you hit that little nubbin just there with one of these hammers, then you go up past E. coli, past Legionella, and hopefully ring the bell. What do you stand a chance of winning?
You can potentially win 2 tickets to go and see Ed Sheeran, and you could also win 2 fantastic executive tickets to go and see Manchester United at Old Trafford.
Right then, I'm going to put you on the spot. There is your hammer. Stuart, thank you very much for showing us around the Felida booth today. Take it away, and Stuart, ring that bell. Here we go. First time. What a star. Stuart, cheers, buddy.